Well, hey, good morning. Welcome to the Blue Gamer Bluecast Morning Show. I'm your host, Adam Blue, 30 plus your video game enthusiast. You know, I forgot to set up my... There's my morning sneeze. It's as soon as I start speaking in a presentable manner every morning, a sneeze happens. Anyway, I forgot to set my thing up there, but I guess it's not a big deal. Usually I move the curtain over a little bit so then I can take this purple light, shine it there. But it doesn't matter because we're on. We're good to go. Very interesting stuff I want to get into, kind of, I guess, and the news and then what I've been playing. Okay. So, first of all, very interesting. If you remember last week, right? For a while, I've been streaming fine, and then last week, something happened where when I would stream certain games, the stream would crash. And I was getting, like, encoder issues, and I was like, what is going on? I have no idea. And then I finally found the culprit. Jim Killix, good to see you. Glad you can hear what I'm about to say. So let me show this real quick, and then we'll get into what I've been playing. So, as I said, my stream had been crashing, and I didn't know why, but there was something I had done. It was like a news segment, either Monday or Tuesday, where I turned on, if you go to the Steam settings and game recording, I had record and background set automatically, which, to be honest, is an amazing feature, and I'm going to show why. But if I'm recording in the background while doing a stream, the CPU overloads because those are both really dependent on CPU utilization. So that was the issue. So I know that when I'm going to play a game on the stream, I just have to go in here and turn this off. But otherwise, I love to keep the recording on. Why? Because it does background recording while you're playing. And I guess it's like the way my computer is. Luckily, I can stream, play games on max settings, nothing happens. I can record in the background while playing games, nothing happens. But if I'm streaming while playing a game and recording it, that is too much for the CPU. And it makes sense. So, why is this cool? Well, for instance, when I go to Vampire Survivors, which I've been playing, it will automatically then have it does the last 2 hours of play. But what it does is if I only played, for instance, for 93 minutes, it's going to, which that was a long session. Yeah, that was last night. I was going through, and I think that was last night's session. Yeah, I was trying to unlock the rest of the Castlevania thing, because that's what's crazy. I'll get into what we're playing soon, what I'm playing, but this Castlevania stuff has been so fun for me in a weird way. But this game recording feature is awesome. So, like, if I click on the Castlevania Dominus Collection, November 9th, I played for 26 minutes. So that video is there, so then I can share it. Which, then if we go to, over the weekend, I had shared a bunch of videos. I had 11 minutes of this Mandragora demo, which, that game is awesome, by the way. It's a side-scrolling Metroidvania with 3D graphics, but the 3D polygon work is very consistent. And then playing the Dracula gameplay in Vampire Survivors Ode to Castlevania, which the Dracula gameplay is insane, because it was like once I beat the game, I unlocked him, and then it unlocked a whole bunch of other stuff. And then Karate Survivor gameplay, I've got up there 15 minutes, and then Marsupilami that I was talking about, like, oh, I need to try that out, and then it went for sale, $1. Bought that, and that's pretty fun. So, that's a cool feature that I actually love, and I'm going to make use of it all the time. When I'm not streaming gameplay, I am going to have Steam set to record, because as soon as I'm done, I'm going to have gameplay that I can share. So, and there's an option too to like turn on microphone so that it could record if I'm speaking. I'm not really speaking on these, and I think that's usually not as interesting. It's more if people just want to see some gameplay. But whenever I want to like maybe post gameplay where I'm trying to cover something specific, I'll do that. Hey, Steve, good to see you. The more you know. Yeah, it's quite awesome, to be honest, that I ran into this sort of issue, because I would have not realized, because I pretty much forgot about the Steam game recording. So, okay, let's go to what I've been playing. All right, so first of all, no particular order, or should I go in order? I guess it doesn't matter. Castlevania, Lament of Innocence, playing on a PS2 emulator. Love that I can get the achievements. This, if you talk to Castlevania fans, they'll say they like this game. Now, the story, when it comes to Castlevania, even though I don't care about stories, the story is kind of a cool story because it's like how the Belmont clan started, the first kind of thing there. And the gameplay is pretty fun because it's, if you're thinking a PlayStation controller, it's a square and triangle to do combos. And the more you do different combos, the more you unlock a combo. And then X is to jump. And then circle is to activate your sub-weapon. Like usually it's throwing the axe or whatever. But then you can like combine it with these orbs. So then your sub-weapon does different things. Anyway. The right trigger is block, which is cool for a melee combat game, in 2003. But when you block, you can then go left, right, up, down, with the X button. It reminds me of like Ocarina of Time, where you use the Z trigger to lock on, and then you can like jump backward. It does that, but with the block button. And if you block at the right time, it just knocks them back. So it's like the first time Castlevania has really incorporated a really good block and dodge mechanic. So the combat and the mechanics are fun. But the castle layout design it's so annoying that usually I can only play in short bursts because it's just the same corridor, the same thing. It's all arbitrary. It's not made to look like it's a castle. It's just made to be like, here's a corridor so you get to the next area that has enemies. Also, there's no leveling up, so there's no reason to fight enemies except for sometimes when you go to a room for the first time, it will lock the doors and you can't leave the room until you kill the enemies, but then later you can just walk past them. That's kind of annoying. There's no reason to kill enemies. And also, it has some cool puzzles and platforming. So, like, I'll be in a room where I have to find a switch. I hit the switch. It makes all these platforms come out of the wall that then I can jump to get higher. And then it has areas that are designated for your whip to do platforming. So you can grab on, whip yourself up higher. Even for its time when it came out, I remember playing it when it came out, and I was like, this game is just, at that time, I think we had other interesting games like Devil May Cry. I'll have to look back and see what other action games I played at that time that made this seem like it was nothing. Because that would have been, the Xbox would have been out. Tons of great games on the Xbox by that time. Oh, there was Hunter, The Reckoning. That gave me Castlevania vibes. That was a badass action game. Let's see. I haven't played that game in forever. I either rented or borrowed it. Can't remember. Yeah, and that's the thing. Then there's Curse of Darkness, which is also on Xbox. That's another one of these 3D games, but they added the leveling system back to it. So I've played a little bit of that same type of thing. The world design is kind of boring. So that's interesting to think. That's what really gets me is the world I'm in. I want to feel like it's a living world and not just like, here's a corridor, Okay, Metal Slug Tactics. So playing this more, and really to wrap your head around it, or what I had to do is to understand this is a roguelike. I think you guys saw when I was playing live, on the live stream, that like I'd want to restart the mission because I already messed up, or it's like I want to make sure I do this right. That's not how it goes. Especially like when you go to start a mission, or when you go, like if I exit the game and go back, it takes me exactly to where I was. The point of it is to lose. So this is strictly like a roguelike. You're doing the tactics, and there's interesting things in this game that make it different from other tactics games, like how if you die, you can unlock things to where like you can then press a button to send that person back to the field. And it's like, okay, then I didn't really lose them. There's things you can unlock along the way to get more XP, more coins. Between missions, you can do, and I don't know if it's for the run or for the whole game, but you do unlocks for each character. Like their stuff will be more powerful, or you get a bonus move if you do something. All of that is really well done now that I've wrapped my head around it. The problem is it's a slow game. It shows here I played an hour and 40 minutes. I've maybe played 4 maps, and they're not that big. It's just so slow to be like, okay, I'm going to move this person over here, and then this person over here will have the synergy to kill this. And then as you play, more enemies come, so it's like you're constantly... And then you could try to rush if you want, but then there's certain objectives I want to meet, like try to do something in a couple moves, try not to let someone have their health go low. And it could be the start of the game is slow because I don't have all the unlocks. I want to play it more, but its slow pace kind of makes me move on quick. So hopefully that could be remedied somehow. And then obviously playing a lot of Vampire Survivors. I'm now at the point, like, what? I unlocked 15 Castlevania characters, and then all of a sudden there's 15 more, or something like that, after I beat the map, and then the map opened up even more, and it's crazier. It even has side-scrolling sections in Vampire Survivors. It's pretty much, it's crazy. The side-scrolling stuff is pretty much just pixel by pixel, the exact thing from Castlevania. It's so weird how much... Except instead of pressing a button to jump, you go up on the joystick because the game is just a joystick game. And I was having to fight the boss, Legion, you know, the big bunch of human people like smashed together. And it played just like it did in, I don't know, it's in a bunch of Castlevania games. It's very interesting. But so what I'm basically doing is unlocking characters so I can unlock their music. And so I've realized I don't have to do a whole 30-minute run. Sometimes I can get it done in 5 to 10 minutes. The unlock I need to then move on, which is kind of lame because then it's like I'm not really caring, and I kind of don't. Again, I've explained where I'm kind of over the Vampire Survivors gameplay. So for me, it's just I enjoy unlocking this Castlevania stuff, listening to the music. So there's like 30 tracks that span the whole Castlevania, library. So there's more than 30 tracks. There could be 300 tracks. I don't know. But the tracks they decide to use are some of my favorite, even like tracks that people don't talk about much, or that I've discovered on my own, the Castlevania music. And then they've taken them and they do their iterations. There are some where I don't like their iteration of it, or what do you call it? Their, there's a word for it. But then some I think are excellent. Like, wow, that's exactly what I would think to do in terms of like just notes or drumming or making something sound a certain way. And then even with some tracks, especially from one song from Harmony of Dissonance, it's like that song sounds a certain way. It's very atmospheric. They kind of took it and added more to it, but kept the atmosphere. And I was like, wow, they really get it. So I'd love to, a rendition. Thank you, JamKillX. I'd love to actually speak to the composer, whoever put the Castlevania music, to be like, they had to have been a hardcore fan of Castlevania music to really understand the essence of the song to have that rendition. It's amazing. That's what I like about video games music. Music stuff is awesome for me. All right, moving on. Metal Gear Solid 5. So this is something I'm always wanting to go back to. And until Outlaws comes back, it's like, man, I need a third-person shooter to play. And I saw, Death Stranding, it's $20 or something on Xbox, and it's cross-play. So I'm like, okay, Death Stranding. But it's like, you know what? I need to properly complete at least Metal Gear Solid 5, just because it has that kind of modern gameplay feel I like. And so I think I first played, I wonder if it says when I unlocked the achievement. Let me see if I click on this. No, it doesn't really. But the first achievers, that's interesting. Oh, on this it does, yeah, March 8th, 2023. So I think that's when I first played, and then I played a little bit this summer. And I guess there's just so many things to play, and it's an older game that I just move on. But I played on the stream this weekend, and you know what? I had fun. It's one of those where there's a couple ways you could play a game, especially when there's a lot of options and tactics and stealth, where you could go in and do everything badass slowly. And then there's someone like me, where sometimes I don't have patience, but I like to get into the action, or I'll just run in, do whatever. And I love that this game allows me to do that. It's kind of like how I talk about the Sniper Elite series, but at the end of the day, this is done the best, I think. Metal Gear Solid 5. And just thinking of, it's just crazy to think, because when this game came out, people said so many good things about it. And I just kind of avoided it I played the Ground Zeroes, and I thought that was just okay. It was fun, but to play the full release, I was like, I can wait. So what was interesting was not playing it, but then I guess in the past, 9, 8 years since it came out, so many games that actually do not follow a lot of the mechanics introduced in Metal Gear Solid 5. And maybe mechanics isn't the right word, maybe just controls in general. We talked about Helldivers 2. They were influenced by the controls in Metal Gear Solid 5, and it feels that way. But I feel like there's more. It's almost like this could ruin other games, because there's not many games that really take the time to have very fluid controls. As I want to react to the environment, the controls work that way. It's kind of funny. Even in Black Ops 6, it's doing that because of the new Omni movement system. Because it could be where, oh no, something's shooting at me, I want to duck and go backwards. But what the game does now is you actually dive on your back with your gun out. That's something Metal Gear Solid has already done, but that's a very intuitive process for when you're controlling a character and want to do something. And I think more games need to incorporate that idea. The one-to-one of your thoughts and your reaction to controls, it should make it where you're almost controlling it instead of like arbitrarily, like sometimes A is to jump, but what if up is jump, like in a side scroller, kind of like in a fighting game? I'm not that all games need to do that, but it's just, I think a lot of times when making a game, it's very easy to stick with what just works. And that's usually a good idea, but I think you also then have to think, how can we stick with what works, but add onto it? And so, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 did it, Helldivers 2. I would say Sniper Elite could use that also, because it's very restrictive. There's no diving backwards. You could go prone, you can duck, you can run away. But it's like very specific to those actions and not like a sort of thing where you're dynamic, I guess, where it's like, okay, I need to go backwards and still shoot, so the game, controls in that way. Anyway, Midnight Hatter, feel is an underrated trait in gameplay. You're exactly right. Feel. Because that's what I get out of Castlevania. We were just talking about the music, how much I enjoy the music and the feel of the atmosphere of the music that helps. And when I was talking about in Castlevania Lament of Innocence, where the environment I'm in just feels arbitrary. It doesn't seem like I'm really in a thing. That's exactly it. Feel is the underrated trait. That's something I want to keep in mind now when thinking about games. Like, how is this going to feel with all of the... And yeah, that's the other thing with Metal Gear Solid 5. All of the things worked together. Like, the feel of the game, the controls, the music, even the little quirkiness that, Kojima has in the games. Like when I was getting an item and it drops into, the box, and then I go in the box and it closes, and then it opens, and then I have the item like that. That really made no sense, but it was more quirky and like added to it, so... let's see what else. Castlevania, Dominus Collection. I went back to Portrait of Ruin to play that, just because, I just beat Circle of the Moon on the Advanced Collection. That came out a few years ago, and I just feel like, Dominus Collection just came out this year. I built a custom DS back in January just to play the DS Castlevania games again. I tell you, the universe is speaking to me. So it came out with this collection. I feel like I want to give it more time before the end of the year, because I think this is going to be my game of the year potentially, just because it's exactly what I was wanting, and I never thought they would release it. I remember earlier, because they announced it in August. It came out the week of my birthday. I remember just that summer thinking, well, maybe the Switch 2 will have a way to have dual screens, so then we could play our DS games, but they did it. I tell you, it's crazy. All right, let's jump into some news. First, let's go to the gaming leaks and rumors. Xbox wins marketing rights for the Max Payne remakes will be shown at the Game Awards. So that makes me think the Max Payne remakes will be on Game Pass, which is a great idea. The only thing, and I don't know if they have this information, are they just talking about 1 and 2? I almost, even this Max Payne. Yeah, someone's bringing up Max Payne 3. Like, I love Max Payne 3. That's an excellent game. But I almost feel like it's only going to be the first 2 Max Payne games because I think 3 is with Rockstar. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. I could be wrong. Max Payne 3 is one of those games that I would say is like a Metal Gear Solid 5 in terms of like it takes what works, adds on it, and it's very unique. Let's see. Super Nintendo World Direct announced. So that might have to do with the, those Nintendo worlds that are popping up. There's actually one being built by me, which is pretty cool. Don't know when that's supposed to be finished. I think next year. All right, Alone in the Dark 2 appears on the PlayStation Store backend, most likely coming to premium. Yeah, I don't even subscribe to the PlayStation thing anymore. And it's interesting because I usually just subscribe to these things by default, but Xbox tends to, it could be, subjective. Xbox tends to have the better free games that are available. Let's see. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD spotted. So that would make sense. I played through it. What was it? Wii U that came out with the HD version. So I'm thinking I don't know how much I was using like the gamepad verse, but they could easily just work in because it wasn't dual screen in the first place. But yeah, Wii U I think is when I played the HD remake, and I liked how they did it because I think they tone down on the ocean traveling in a way. Like I forget what it was that they did, whether they made it where it's faster or there was a fast travel component. But I remember when I first played Wind Waker, I was like, this is blasphemous. What are they doing to Zelda? And I think revisiting the remake, which I did, in 2015 or 16, I forget when it was. I enjoyed my time. I thought it was great. Okay, this is a big deal. This makes sense to me. Batman Arkham Asylum remake reportedly in the works by Rocksteady. I think that's the direction to go, okay? Because, we got this Suicide Squad versus Justice League, and it's like, why not a Batman game? I feel like that's the most strange thing to, you make a live service game, but you're not even Batman in it. Like, I don't know why they, the Suicide Squad game, which I think lost Warner Brothers $200 million. The thing is, it has great combat, but that's all that's going for it, So with this Arkham Asylum remake, I'm down for that because I think it can use a modernization, especially even modernize it past the Arkham Knight, which it's showing its age. I was playing that recently. It looks fantastic, but the controls, some of the UI is very old in a way. They could definitely fix that up. And it would be cool if they look at that game, Acts of Blood. It's another game that... Did I upload? I didn't upload it, but I think... Oh, yeah, let me go to the live. Where was it? On the 7th, I have some gameplay of Acts of Blood. I feel like that took the sort of Arkham-style gameplay that we see in Spider-Man, where it's you kind of home in on, like, the next person, and they really made it feel more realistic, where I wasn't going like a mile away to punch someone and then kicking someone that's across the building. They kept it very realistic feeling, and especially every time you pressed an attack button, it would be like if I pressed right, then the next punch would be left, but then it might be, like they kept, there was long animation frames so that like if you pressed it, it would then initiate like, okay, what, like the kicks. You would kick, but then the next kick would be a bat kick because he's already positioned to then... Anyway, I feel like they could really solidify that type of combat in Arkham Asylum because it's still revolutionary what they did. And since they own the Nemesis system, they might as well add that as a layer to it. But you're saying you don't trust it, JamKillX. I think yeah, with that, it's the original Rocksteady people are just not there anymore. So that sort of creative spark, if you will, would be gone, and it would be more of just, okay, let's churn out this remake. But hopefully not. Hopefully not. Let's see. Physical version of Black Myth Wukong will release on December 12th. So that's good to hear after it already came out and did very well. It's done well enough. And I like that it's a smaller studio from China. You know, I love it when we have these game studios that seem potentially smaller or not have that much experience, but are, you know, cranking out. Because Black Myth Wukong, great game. I just, by the third chapter, felt like, you know, I'm kind of done. I've kind of done this before. I think I soulsed myself out playing too many Souls-likes. Yeah, the 2010s was definitely the year of the Souls-likes. I played Demon Souls, Dark Souls like 3 times, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, the original Dark Souls 3 times at least, maybe more than that. Bloodborne 5 times. And then played through Elden Ring and the Demon Souls remake. I think I Demon Souls myself out. Okay, and then I think, there's no other new news or rumors and leaks. So we'll go to the new news. This is from the headlines of websites. I don't know how much we could trust them nowadays, but okay. Okay, there's that. I don't know what that is. There's that. New game mode in Black Ops 6. So, I've not been playing Black Ops 6. I think I Call of Duty'd myself out. But I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about the campaign. But usually that just means it's familiar just with something new. I really liked last year's campaign, and a lot of people didn't, just because it was completely different. Even it was things people didn't want, but for me, like, there's this achievement I have. It's one of the rarest achievements, I guess, that exists in general, and it was from that game. And it was doing a specific thing where I paraglided or parajumped from one building to an objective, and I guess because most people, I guess, didn't play the game enough to realize it's very open. It's very interesting. It's almost like, thinking back, they almost tried to do a first-person Metal Gear Solid 5. Let's see. Genshin Impact gets an update. I played that for like 5 minutes one time. It's pretty cool, but polish something that has never existed before. Miyamoto explains how Nintendo is countering rising development costs. We believe that it is important to nurture developers who take this unique concept to heart. I think that makes sense, and I think we see that with Nintendo all the time. If you really think of, you know, just looking at Mario Wonder on the hardware it's on, that game looks incredible. That could be on a PS5, and we would be like, wow, it looks great. Just Nintendo knows how to just hone in on key things. And I was talking about graphics there, but it could be anything. It just be the feel of gameplay. Even if and this happens to me sometimes, I would say Yoshi's Woolly World, I think, is a recent one where it's not like it's an amazing game, but it feels, going back to the feels thing, it feels tight. It feels good. Like you're going to have a good time with it. And that was the same with that Smurfs game. If you guys saw me play that earlier, that demo where again, it feels good. From Software parent company confirms 20 upcoming console games. But it's weird to say From Software parent company. Like what? Like that doesn't mean From Software has 20 upcoming games. That's funny. I saw this. What was it? The news article was like Marvel Rivals developers caught with extortion. Maybe we'll see that here. Not extortion. That would be even worse. Money laundering. There you go. Which it's like obvious. Yeah, game budgets being that high, money laundering. So if other games have budgets that high, probably money laundering. Hollywood movies. But anyway, and then the title was like Marvel Rivals developer arrested for money laundering. And then people were like, oh no, Marvel Rivals is going to own it. No. That developer has different development houses working on different games, and it was unrelated to Marvel Rivals. But it's just how they write the titles. Yakuza creator Nagoshi says the era of game size being most important is coming to an end. What does that mean, game size? Does that mean of it being big? Explain that his new studio's debut game will be an action adventure game, but stressed that the game that he doesn't think game size is important as it used to be. I want to make a game that's fun to play, but isn't too much of a hassle. Okay, I can kind of see what he's saying. There was a time, especially after the Assassin's Creed games, where it was kind of neat and inviting to game players to have, This time, while researching existing games, we started by making a fairly large map of the original highways. Now we are gradually shrinking it down. So yeah, after that first Assassin's Creed, all these open world games would come out and they would have gigantic maps. And that was actually cool at first because that was new. I think over time we kind of got sick of it and we're kind of like, well, it doesn't need to be that big. He means the whole 80 hours of gameplay thing. Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like, sometimes we don't need that much filler going on because then you could actually quickly lose sight of what makes something fun. Even if something feels fun to you, you could be burdened with all this nonsense and then be like, yeah, I'm done with it. Which is interesting because I think it's the reverse scenario with Vampire Survivors because it's so simple that it needs a lot. But then, like, I feel like there's always this, sometimes it's like, well, that's too much. I don't know. But no, I think that's cool that they're thinking that because that is true. There was a time, and I forget when it was, where I think it was settling in during Assassin's Creed Origins, and maybe even before that, and I was just playing Origins because I wanted to, but where I would look at a map and I'm like, oh my God, to do all this stuff. Maybe it was Assassin's Creed 3, now that I'm remembering, because I remember I would be running around Assassin's Creed 3, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, you could do this. Oh, you could do this. This is here. This is here. And then I'd open the map and it has all these icons, and I'm like, no. Nintendo suing streamer for broadcasting 10 games ahead of release. Well, yeah, I could see that. Firm is seeking 152,500 in damages. So, interesting things here, though. Like, I wonder, it's the Copyright Act. Yeah, because, again, there's a lot I could read here, but it's like, is there sort of precedent for if something is not available, you happen to have it and you're showing it, and it's not like people can play it, but they could see it ahead of release. Yeah, that's like a leak. This is an example of Nintendo has the right to do this. Scare people from wanting to leak games early. I'm down with that. That's because there was something I was reading too when it comes to, and I'm going to actually end it here. When it comes to like game journalists and they're covering games and they're covering leaks, I've seen it where they speak about like sometimes they'll decide what to leak because it might damage the plans the company has for reveals. And we know how big reveals are, especially on social media, where you might reveal how a game plays or what to expect, but maybe they want to hold some things back. But sometimes it's because they know they have something bad, but it could be because they want to. Yeah, what was I think Transformers 1 is a good example. I can't find a video game example, but for a movie. For like Transformers 1, they kind of did a thing where it was being shown as more of a like kid-friendly action fun movie, which it is, but it's actually really a deep story, very mature themed movie. And that wasn't at all showcased in any of the marketing. So sometimes I think journalists have to think about things they leak and how it might affect marketing. But yeah, I think Nintendo's in the right here, even though I'll call them out. Like charging a drug dealer to get to the supplier. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's just to get him to rat on his horse like charge. Because doesn't that require discovery and all that? Because I think it's like they could just pay, but they probably can't afford it. So then they'll go through the system to be like, okay, let's just reveal. Just like the whole thing with the Power World game where Nintendo's just seeking $66,000 or something. It's more of, I think they want to like scare developers into just not doing this. Interesting tactics. Well, anyway, it is that time. I'm gonna go, but yeah, this was good. I'm glad we got to figure out the whole thing with the Steam recording, and then not too much interesting news going on, but I do think hearing that developer speak on the Yakuza game speak about making the game smaller or just not as crazy kind of makes me think about the other games I've been playing recently that we talked about today. So anyway, that's about it. So hope you guys have a good rest of the day, and we will talk later.